This does look very interesting, doesn't it?
It does, and I think the thing when I showed this to you last night was we look at our left-hand side, the flexibility and fluidity of our team overall, which a few weeks ago we had a few concerns about our left-hand side, didn't we? When Martinelli lost his way a little bit. This, to me, shows the flexibility and fluidity now on that left-hand side. This is the average match positions. So we've got like our false nine, Trossard, over here with Martinelli. Over here on the left-hand side, Xhaka. This is the average match positions, remember, and Zinchenko. Look, they are all in that area. That is their average position. That shows, I think, the fluidity of that left-hand side, which wasn't working a few weeks ago. The right-hand side with White, Odegaard and Saka was better. And Partey as well on that side, but look now, we've replicated it on the left-hand side, and I think our left-hand side in this game was key to unlocking Fulham. Yeah,
it's very interesting that the two highest players are the wingers who really hug the touchline, but they're also the two highest.
Yeah, and I said to you a few weeks ago, didn't you, I like the way this team has evolved now. These young players, Saka and Martinelli now who's scored, I think, more goals this season that don't include penalties, the most since Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at 20 a few years ago. He's now got 12. Him and Saka for me are almost like our two forwards at times now. And I want to see them sort of like in these sort of positions. I want Trossard or Jesus dropping in here, you know, to build the play. And I want Saka and Martinelli sort of like making these out to in runs and getting on the end of things, you know. And we talked about this before, about them making direct runs from out to in and getting into the box, because they, to me, are almost like forwards to me. They're wide forwards, but I see them as forwards. And I think this average positions of the match shows that Martinelli is the furthest forward, and then Saka is the next furthest forward. And you know, for me though, I just want to take you back to that left-hand side. I thought yesterday that was functioning so well.
It really was. And what I sort of noticed watching the game, Arsenal's many shapes, here we are, is how Arsenal are so incredibly fluid. We've touched on fluidity before, but we talk about fluidity, you tend to think of the final third, what Arsenal do in the final third to break teams down. We talk about fluidity. I'm talking also about the ability for this system to constantly change and evolve throughout the match to deal with whatever they've got to deal with. Now, we've got a few shapes. Firstly, Arsenal in possession, and we've got the usual, the back three and build up, Partey coming between the lines, Zinchenko's there, Odegaard and Xhaka splitting, and then the really high and wide wingers. Now we saw a little bit of that, and now the very sort of first thing that everyone would have noticed at times is that we also got this, which is Trossard and Martinelli swapping positions. We saw a lot of that. They interchange a lot. They're very happy to play in each other's positions. Fantastic. We actually see that for the second goal, which we're going to touch on in a second. Then we move it one along, and at times we saw this as well. We saw Zinchenko hugging the width because he is, the touchline, because he is a left back. We saw Trossard and Martinelli maybe a little bit more central. We saw Odegaard coming into the 10 space a little bit more. They alternate in that sense. Sometimes Arsenal would even move. I've gone too far there, apologies. Let's go back to that one there. There we go, I've made a complete mess of this. Is it this one? Yeah, here we go. We have White right up the pitch as well sometimes, because he has to overlap. He can only overlap when Saka's come inside a little bit more. And then what you've actually got is really just the two centre-backs left alone to do their defending. Now, if we lose the ball and we give it to Fulham, you've got your 4-4-2, where Odegaard will come and press high up with the forward, and they get into a nice shape. Xhaka comes in deep next to Partey. But at times, and this is where I thought was really interesting, yes, you had Trossard swapping with Martinelli, but you even had, when they were getting their fullbacks up the pitch, Trossard really dropping into almost like a wing-back position at times, I noticed. He's played there for Brighton before, which I thought was really interesting. And then the final one I want to show is that Saka as well was doing the same on that side of the pitch.
Yeah, I think that this team now is so well coached by Arteta. This is elite coaching, I think. The way that the players are positioned to be able to be close together when we've got the ball and close together when we lose the ball in transition. They work so incredibly hard off the ball now. And a few seasons ago, Arsenal teams didn't do that. We've said that in the past. So I think that the way this team now is built, with the fluidity and flexibility on the ball and the technical skill they've got on the ball and the work rate off the ball, he's created, I think, a team that is so structurally perfect to actually enable these players to express themselves on the ball and be able to work back as a team off the ball. And I think you see that, I think, week in, week out now. And I think the way we sort of press in a 4-4-2 when we lose the ball, the way we build up in our asymmetrical shape is a 3-2-5, comes to 2-3-5. The way we sort of like wait for, as I said in my intro, wait for that right pass to make. We're very. We've got the ability to keep the ball, make the right pass, 1 touch, 2 touch, the technical ability to play round teams. And that was the difference between the two teams yesterday, James, is I thought that we had the technical ability on the ball to play round them, and I thought we pressed better than them. And once we were able to play round their press, I think, so well to sort of like create the openings we made.
You're absolutely right, and we should touch on their press. And it's going to incorporate everything we've talked about so far on this show. But let's highlight it here. So here's Fulham.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to stop the play?
Well, I think this is the second goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you've recreated this absolutely brilliantly because we went through this before the show. So the point I'm going to make here, this is what Silva decided to do in this game. Instead of using, teams lately against Arsenal have used the low block or the deep block and have played on the counter or gone long, tried to sort of mix it up and play for second balls. He stuck to his principles yesterday, Silva, which he's employed at Fulham this season, and that is to press really aggressively from the front. And you'll see, as this play develops, Arsenal by now, this is the second goal, we're leading by 1-0 with a goal from Gabriel from the corner. As it goes out to Ben White, you can see they've got 6 or 7 players pressing from the front. Their 4-4-2 out of possession has now developed into this pressing strategy where they've got Mitrovic and Pereira up high, and you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you count Robinson who's pressing onto Saka, they got like a 7v7 here. So, but one thing they didn't have is once this play develops, and I think Donovan Reid goes slightly forward, is once this play develops, Xhaka then will come forward into the space. And that's where we create the space for the move to develop. But they press really high here. They got like a 6 and even a 7v7 as we try to play out. But this is what Arteta welcomes. Players are so composed in the way they play out now. They're not frightened to play out now. And we want teams to play like this to sort of like be able to sort of like play round them the way we play round them. And I know you're going to develop this on now because this was a 23 pass move for us for our second goal.
It was an unbelievable move. I'm going to move it all the way back. Apologies. Let's go all the way back because you can now see how it's going to build. This pass, the reason Saliba's here is because actually Gabriel's kind of forced him back. They're trying to open the pitch up, and Fulham are actually defending and pressing quite well at this point. And I think you're right to talk about it. I'm going to show the goal through and one. So White gets the ball into Odegaard, lovely into Partey. Saka comes short, and he has to look after the ball here, and he does really well. I don't think it was Saka's best game, but he does really well in that move. Comes all the way back to Saliba, and then it's that switch pass to Xhaka that really opens up the pitch. Xhaka gets the ball, and I didn't realise quite how far he carried the ball. But he takes it a really long way, rolls it into Trossard. And actually, it wasn't a great pass. Let's take a good touch, Trossard. Fronts up Tete, then goes around the outside and puts it in to Martin, who puts it into the back of the net. Now, I want to go from... the football's brilliant. If we go here. So, Saka looks after it really well. Solomon then takes the ball on. It comes back to Saliba. Now, whilst they've done well, they've looked after it so well, but because Fulham have actually pressed quite well, I think they sense that they might win that ball back. They're so committed up the pitch. Reid starts this move all the way out here, but he moves all the way inside because he senses Zinchenko might get it. When you're a 4-4-2, you want to be quite narrow, so you've got their 4-man midfield there. And that's when, as they get sucked back and back, Saliba's literally on the goal line. He goes, yeah, cool, and then he switches it. And Xhaka is the one who receives the ball there. Now, when we talked about fluidity, which we mentioned earlier in this video, it's Martinelli up front in this situation. It's Trossard hugging the wing. Now, normally, you'd think, well, shouldn't Xhaka, a good, accomplished physical player, good on the ball, shouldn't he be there to help deal with that? But he says, no, I don't need to be involved. It's fine. I'll wait here. Zinchenko's come all the way inside, so I'm going to make sure I'm hugging the space where he could be. And that is what it brings everything we've just been saying together. The average positions, the interchanging, the fluidity, from Xhaka being where maybe you'd expect Zinchenko to be, to Trossard being where you'd expect Martinelli to be. It's fine. It all still worked. They found a way, and they scored a really great second goal. I don't think you'll find a better back-to-front goal all season in the Premier League, or maybe a handful, but it makes the top 3 or 4 for sure. It's a fantastic goal.
It is, absolutely. 100% agree with you.